right, and we're back. Next up on our segment, Skyping with the Stars, we have the creator of Chew, John
Hello.
Layman.
How you doing, America and the world and the internet?
I have to start off by saying that Chew was and still is my favorite comic being published right now. Last year, when the website that I write for was doing our top 10 comics of the year, Chew was my number one.
Oh, beautiful! Thank you.
A well-deserved Eisner Award for Best New Series. Where did you come up with this concept?
No idea. I had pitched it for a super long time, and nobody wanted it. And it was really about 4 or 5 years before it got off the ground, to the point where I can't remember. I'm sure that when bird flu hysteria was around, that had part of it, but the actual sort of cannibal cop idea, no idea.
Well, I think,
which is sad. I get asked this all the time, and I wish I had a story, but I don't.
Well, that first issue, specifically, I always try to explain this comic to people, and normally after I explain it to them, they end up buying it and liking it. But I always tell them, the concept is so ridiculous that it feels like every issue he just throws more random shit your way. But because of how ridiculous the concept is in the first place, you just buy into it. Okay, sure, there's vampires now.
Well, there are rules. I mean, every once in a while I get people suggesting story ideas, and they're like, you should do this. And I'm like, no, that doesn't really, work within the universe. And so even if I don't have the words to explain what the rules are, I know what they are.
Now, a lot of artists, I'm friends with the creator of a really short comic book series called Bizarre New World, and when you read it, his name's Skipper Martin. When you read that comic, it's very clear that the main character is based on Skipper Martin. Are any of the characters in Chew kind of based on you at all, or do you completely?
Oh no, I've got nothing to do with any of them.
So you're not a cannibal, is what you're saying?
No, or anybody else.
Now, the artwork, I think, is another really interesting piece of the puzzle. How did you get hooked up with the artist?
We got introduced by another writer who had been working on a Tokyo Bop book that got scuttled. And I had been looking for an artist for quite a while at that point, for probably, a year or more. And, hitting up my pro friends, and no one was really right. I wanted someone, kind of bouncy and fun, because I was getting kind of serious artists, and if it would make it a completely different book, and I wanted to sort of offset the grossness with a fun artist, and so this guy introduced me and introduced Rob and I, and Rob had a lot of different styles on his website, and originally when he had found out I pitched this to Vertigo, he turned in a very Vertigo test page, and I thought, ooh, this guy is not right, and I pointed out some very sort of animated art from his website and said, this is what I like. And he said, oh, that's my style. No one's ever asked me to draw in my style. They tell me to draw like this person or that person. So really, I just, freed up Rob to draw like himself.
Yeah, like you said, it does add that character to it. It adds, it's already a funny story, but in those horrible moments where Chew's forced to eat something really gross, the animation style makes it bearable to read.
Yeah, and I have a problem with a lot of books where I feel like too many comic books, most comic books take themselves too seriously. And, superheroes are really fundamentally dumb. And which means the majority of comic books are fundamentally dumb. And people can't see that, and they can't smile and sort of laugh at the silliness of it. And I wanted to have a comic book that, never wasn't afraid to laugh at itself. I used a double negative. That wasn't afraid to laugh at itself. And sort of, it's ridiculous, but, is it any more ridiculous than Batman?
Well, and I think you make a point. I think as popular as the Spider-Man and the Superman and Batman comics are always going to be, I feel like a lot of people do gravitate towards Chew or to a superhero extent like a Deadpool or or something where it's a tension reliever. It's just like, okay, I'm a 20-something-year-old guy reading comic books. Like, give me something to laugh about. Like, this is kind of a childish
I also
thing.
think the seriousness of comic books are off-putting, and to the average non-comic book reader, you hand them, an issue of whatever, and they're like, wow, it's a guy in his underwear running around punching each other. That's stupid, and it takes itself really seriously. And people want to like comic books, and here you give them something that, it's fun. You can smile, you can laugh with it. You get you can get grossed out but laugh at the same time, and it's proven to be very accessible.
Now, I've read that Chew is possibly being picked up as a television series. Is this
as far as I know, it's been picked up by Showtime. The Showtime could come back tomorrow and say we've changed our mind, or I'm a pessimist, but as far as I know, it's not probably. It has been picked up by Showtime.
Well, that's awesome, and I think that's a really great venue. That to me is even a better venue than Walking Dead to AMC.
Yeah,
because I think Showtime. I mean, all their shows have been hitting it out of the park lately. I mean, Dexter's still one of the most brilliant shows out there, and I think Chew would fit in really well amongst those type of shows.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Dexter, Weeds, Californication, all of that, even Nurse Jackie is all sort of, subversive for a rated R audience, and sort of a cannibal cop for a good cause played as a comedy could fit right in.
Now, do you have anything to do with the TV show? Robert Kirkman, is right on board with The Walking Dead. Are they
we're waiting to see what my involvement is. I mean, there's still, deals being hashed out, and this is sort of an ongoing process. And I've made it clear that I would love to, not at the expense of the comic book, but I would love to, contribute story ideas and sort of guide the thing in the way that Kirkman is. And the fact that Circle helped put together Circle of Confusion, who sold Chew, also sold Powers and Walking Dead. So hopefully, the networks are seeing the benefit of creator involvement, and hopefully that'll translate into me.
Nice. Now, I follow you on Facebook and Twitter as well, and you've been talking about writing a script as well. Was that the Choose pilot, or are you writing something else as well?
Oh, no. I was, oh my God. I got about 5 issues ahead on Chew in the beginning of 2010, and then I started taking all this other work because I was so far ahead. So I've written this 3-part Marvel annuals called Identity Wars, which is Spider-Man's annual coming out next week, Deadpool, and the Hulk. And it's this sort of alternate dimension crossover where they each kind of meet their opposites, but they're all opposites in completely different ways. I'm doing a 5-issue Godzilla series, not to be confused with the ongoing Godzilla series that had 800 covers that DW put out. Mine's more like a sort of a cross between a Hong Kong cop gangster movie with a Japanese monster movie. I love Asian cinema, so it's called Gangsters and Callias, and it's about a wronged framed cop who gets hold of the Mothra twins and uses them to control Mothra to get revenge on the Tokyo crime families.
That sounds brilliant.
Yeah, it's pretty fun, and the art is just spectacular by Alberto Ponticelli, who did Unknown Soldier, and Jay Photos, who colors Lock and Key, which is one of my favorite books. And then I'm doing this other thing that hasn't been announced, but it's with Sam Keith. And Sam Keith and I are good friends, and we wanted to work together for a long time. So that was the giant script that I finally wrapped up, and there's a few little noodly changes I have to do, but for the most part, I am back on Chew now for a while.
Nice. You writing Amazing Spider-Man, anything related to Amazing Spider-Man and Deadpool, I'm already excited about, because I think you have the sense of humor to really make those work.
Yeah, the Deadpool one I'm really happy with. The Spider-Man I'm not to say I'm unhappy with it, but when you're setting up a 90, each annual was supposed to be self-contained and yet be a crossover, so it was very difficult, and all the stuff got set up during the Spider-Man annual. So I wasn't free to just have balls out fun until the Deadpool annual, which is going to be nuts. And so yeah, we'll see. Each one's the Spider-Man one has heart, the Deadpool one is wacky, and the Hulk one is visceral, brutal, smash 'em up, which is appropriate to each character.
Now, when's this? Do you have a? Obviously nothing's set in stone in the world of comic books, but the Godzilla Hong Kong cop combination.
Oh, it's been solicited. It's coming in June. 5 issues. Yep.
All right. Awesome.
With a Jeff Darrow cover.
The website that this podcast is hosted on is geekscape.net, and we have a bunch of other stuff. But there's a thing that we do every year. Every year that the site's been up, we do a thing called a gauntlet, which I think you would enjoy, where it's literally get a group of people together and get like 5 or 6 of the shittiest like mom and pop's discount video store horror movies and just sit down and see who can last the longest through all of them. We call it the gauntlet, but it seems like something that might be up your alley if you're into those just random kung fu.
I do, but I tend to watch my movies at speed and a half. That way I feel like my life is less wasted.
That's how I watched Silent Movie the other day, because I figured I didn't need to listen to what they were saying.
Yeah, I put it on caption, and that's sort of my gauge. I sit down with a movie, and my fingers pressed on the speed and a half, and as soon as I press the that button, it's sort of lost me to an extent. So when I get through an entire movie that I don't press that button on, it's like, well, this is probably one to buy for the permanent collection. And the last one that made that cut was The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, which I completely recommend.
I'll have to check that one out. I haven't even heard of that one. I'll definitely have to check that out.
It's the most expensive Korean movie ever made, and it's a remake of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but with nonstop Indiana Jones type action.
Oh,
I mean,
sweet.
It's balls out, crazy, and beautiful. And there's like a 20-minute chase towards the end in the desert with horses and motorcycles and jeeps with guns, and it goes on forever, and it's just incredible.
Now, last question I have is, I'd imagine that Chew eventually has an endpoint.
And issue 60. That has been set in stone, and that will never change. I mean,
and I kind of like that more, because as much as I love Walking Dead, it gets to that point where it's just like, how many times is this going to repeat?
Yes.
These characters having the same problem and then fixing it and having the problem again before it's over.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, Kirkman said, "Oh, you got a hit. Why not run it forever?" And it's because I'm writing a serialized novel. I am working towards an ending, and I know what the ending is, and Rob knows what the ending is, and we don't know what's going to happen issue to issue, but we know milestones, and we know what has to happen to get us to the end.
And I think those are the things that stand the test of time a little bit more. Like, everyone knows Spider-Man, everyone knows Batman, but I think people respect and cherish things like Preacher or Y the Last Man more because it's a story. It's a story with a beginning and an end.
That's what I want Chew to be on the bookshelf next to. Preacher, Y, Transmet. I think Lock and Key is shaping up to be like that.
Lock and Key is so brilliant, and I was so mad that I took so long to get on that train.
Scalp's a good one. I really like The Goon. Starman is a good self-contained series, although it wanders a little bit. Sandman.
I'm really liking it's on Image with you. I was recommended to read Morning Glories, and I was just... It's like Lost the comic book. It's just... But
I hope it has the answers.
Yeah.
Elephant Man is a really good one that doesn't get the acclaim it deserves.
And there's actually, we're going to be having the company that releases it on here soon, but there's a small indie book called Massive Awesome.
Oh, never heard of it.
It's from an independent Philly comic called 215 Inc. They're going to be on a future episode, but they... the comic Massive Awesome might be the most ridiculous comic book concept ever. It's about a kung fu slice of bacon and his best friend that's a pickle that thinks it's a zombie, and they solve murder mysteries.
Wow.
but it was written with the intent of just being like, look, this is going to be a five issue series, and we're just going to be ridiculous with it. And it should be the dumbest comic you've ever read, and you just find yourself You just find yourself laughing because it's just so outrageous.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, you might. I mean, the artwork in it, I think, is one of the selling points. But I mean, they're also doing a comic based on a character from Geekscape called Super Action Man, who is every 80s action hero wrapped in one. He just walks around in a Speedo with the American flag on it and his mullet and sunglasses and fights crime. Well, thank you for coming by, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Everyone should be reading Chew, and I say that sincerely. It is one of the funniest, wittiest comics out there.
Well, based on sales, I kind of think that everyone might be.
Nice. Good.
So, all right, thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you for coming by.